All right, there's not going to be a super long preamble to this one because there's a lot to get through today. So here we are at the grass type tier list. One note I'm going to make is that Sprigatito and Smoliv will not be considered. They will be in their own separate Gen 9 video once we have all of the Gen 9 Pokemon released. So let's start off incredibly strong, actually, with Venusaur. The whole Bulbasaur line, obviously, it's one of the original starters. It's incredibly iconic, incredibly beloved design. And, you can say that I'm blinded by nostalgia all you want, but this is as good of a grass type as you could reasonably hope for. I feel like you'd be hard-pressed for anyone who doesn't think that the Bulbasaur line are great designs. They are Pokemon to me in a very real, meaningful, deep way. They are the definitive, this is what a Pokemon is supposed to look like kind of designs. And that's true for all three of the Kanto starters, not just for this particular line, but we'll get to them when we get to them. Vileplume, I will say, is probably the most standard grass type. The whole Oddish to Gloom to Vileplume is very much it's a sprout, and then it's a flower, and then it's a bigger flower. It's that's grass type. I do like Gloom's personality. B tier is in no way an insult to their designs, but I think in terms of the cleverness and the creativity of it, it's a very standard, it's a flower with legs. Cool. Victory Bell, iconic from the anime where it was always trying to eat James from Team Rocket. I like Bellsprout. I think Bellsprout's kind of got a wiggly, noodly design that's really endearing. And I like the whole line. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. But this is a kind of quick aside about how most of the grass types in Gen 1 were also poison type. And it's we take it for granted today, but it's kind of weird that the only solo grass type in Gen 1 was Tangela. We'll get to with Tangrowth. But yeah, it's kind of weird that they're all grass and poison type, but I'm not going to hold that against them. Carnivorous pitcher plant as a Pokemon design, it works. I'd put it probably above Vileplume. A lot to like about these designs. Exeggutor, so a fun fact about me, a personal anecdote, is that for the longest time I thought that eggs were plants because Execute was a grass type. I later in life learned that eggs are not plants and Execute was supposed to be seeds, but I can't be the only one, so let me know if you share that particular experience. But anyways, into the actual design, I think that a bunch of seeds as a Pokemon was actually kind of a really, really clever take, and I don't think that it's something that they've ever explored again in the future. There have only been 2 or 3 other seed Pokemon, grass Pokemon that are seeds later on in the franchise. So yeah, it's a clever design. I like the palm tree aspect. It does kind of fit the Gen 1, the evolution is just 3 of them. But it's actually a downgrade because only some of the seeds were viable enough to become Exeggutor heads. So yeah, I don't know. Good design, very strong concept. Made me very confused as a child. So I'll go A tier, but I would consider this probably a low A tier for me personally. Meganium, the most clowned on of the Johto starters by a pretty wide margin. And it makes sense because in terms of in-game, ability, it's definitely the weakest of all of them. But we're talking strictly about design, and I gotta say, I really like the design. I think it works. The leaf on Chikorita's head, followed by the leaf necklace collar thingy on Bayleaf, and then it turns into the flower with Meganium, and it's it's an effective design. I think it works. I don't necessarily know if it's great, but I think in terms of a grass type starter, it works really, really well. And it's memed on a lot because it's not very good to use in battle, but just based on the design, I could see a lot of people really, really loving the Chikorita line. And I am personally one of the people who feels very endeared to it, in spite of the fact that I don't use it very much because it's not very good. Blossom is... I have a hard time coming to terms with Blossom because I think that if it were a standalone Pokemon, I would probably put it like high B or A tier. But because it's specifically an evolution of Gloom, it just doesn't make sense and it doesn't work for me. It is a superficially pretty design. It's got the sort of like hula dancer aesthetic, but it's just weird that it evolves from Gloom. Like, I don't see the through line there at all. So I can't, in good conscience for me, rate it above C tier. Jumpluff, I think it's a great design, great concept. Dandelion Pokemon, we see the sort of like all the growth stages of it with Hoppip and Skiploom, and then finally Jumpluff is like the culmination with the big tufts of like cottony dandelion fluff. I think it's a fun design. It's a fun concept. I think that they did a really good job in execution, like to the point where it's like it looks like a creature, but it also looks like, like a flower. It looks like it could be a plant in real life as well. So yeah, I'd say design wise, Jumpluff is probably an A tier for me. Sunflora. Oh yeah, I guess Sunflora is a seed. Or Sunkern is a seed. But again, battle power is not being taken into consideration. I really appreciate the meme of Sunkern being like the best Pokemon you can have in the Pokeathlon in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I think that's a really fun like meta joke about how like it has the weakest stats of any Pokemon, but like if you put in the time and the effort, then it can become like the best at the Pokeathlon. I think that's funny, but like it's just a sunflower with a face. And I don't even think it has as much personality as like a Vileplume or a Victory Bell do in their design. Just in terms of like being like a creative riff on it. It's just like a very literal sunflower, but with a face on it. So it's like an alive creature. So yeah, take it or leave it. I'd say better than Blossom just because I can see the through line in the evolution, but not a very strong design on its own, in my opinion. Sceptile is kind of where, third gen in general is where starter designs started shifting more and more into them trying to make them like a little bit cool and edgy. And like there definitely was an element of that within the first two generations where like as they evolved, they became like more like badass, like battle hardened looking. And I think Sceptile and, the Gen 3 starters in general kind of teeter on that line of just like a little bit too jagged and edgy for me. It's a starter Pokemon, so of course I'm gonna have like strong nostalgic feelings for it. But in general, I don't know if the design really works that well. I also have a lot of attachment to it from the anime. Grovyle and Sceptile were super cool on Ash's team. I remember there was that one movie where it was like jumping around between the buildings, fighting the Scizor or whatever. I have a lot of good feelings about Sceptile, but just in terms of like an objective design sense, I think it's kind of too goofy looking when they were trying to make it look like cool and badass. Like it just, I don't know. I don't think it works for me, like really taking a hard look at it. Shiftry, I like CDOT a lot. And I like Shiftry a lot. I think Shiftry works as like an evolution of the line. It's got that sort of like sandal feet, but they could look like, branches, twigs, whatever. It's got the fan hands. I think there's a lot to like about both CDOT and Shiftry. But why does Nuzleaf have nipples? Why does Nuzleaf have nipples? Game Freak, if you're watching this video and you work for Game Freak, why does Nuzleaf have nipples? D tier. Just for Nuzleaf's nipples. If it weren't for that, I'd probably put it like, high B, maybe low A tier. But why does Nuzleaf have nipples? That doesn't make any sense. It's a plant. Breloom. We all know that Shroomish is the grumpy cat Pokemon, and it's a mushroom. I like Breloom. It's kind of like it's a weird design. Like I don't really know how to make heads or tails of it, but it's weird in that particular kind of like I don't understand you, but I really like you kind of way. Like I don't fully get what they were going for with this design. Like it's a mushroom kangaroo kickboxer type of guy. And it's a confusing design, but it's confusing in a way that works for me. And yeah, I it's it's so hard to describe what makes it good because like I don't know. Like I look at it and I don't know how to make sense of it, but it still just like clicks together and it works in my brain. So A tier for me. Cacturn, cactus Pokemon, great concept. I love how menacing Cacturn is. Like it's got that sort of scarecrow slash cactus vibe that I think really works. I think it like perfectly executes on the idea of like a dark grass Pokemon, how it's so like evil looking, but it's a cactus. I like that it's super spiky. Needle Arm as like sort of its signature move for a while. I think a couple of others have gotten it as the series has gone on, but yeah, I really like Cacnea and Cacturn. I think they're super solid. Tropius kind of in the way that Breloom was kind of a confused design, but it worked for me. Tropius is a confused design that just leaves me with more questions than answers. Like it is a Brontosaurus with wings and is also a banana tree. What? Like it's got too much going on, and it's like you encounter it so little in the Gen 3 games that you kind of just like it's easy to forget that it exists. There's nothing like particularly endearing about it. Nobody really wants to use it in battle because it doesn't have very good stats. And so you just don't really ever have the opportunity to like get attached to it. And I think the design isn't interesting or compelling enough on its own for people to like want to put in the effort to get to know it, so to speak. Yeah, no, I don't have anything nice to say about Tropius. Torterra, it's it's an S tier for me. I think it's better than Venusaur even. Like the concept of it being a tortoise that has a whole continent on its back is brilliant. It's, that grass ground typing, the fact that like it was the generation that introduced the physical special split, and this really took advantage of that in a fun and interesting way. Grotle is kind of like that awkward mid stage that I think doesn't fit into the line, but Turtwig is very cute, very cool. And Torterra is like sturdy. Like you look at it and you're like, that is like a continent of a Pokemon. Like it is just so burly and tough and durable. It evokes exactly what they were going for. And like the tree on the one side of its shell and then the like jagged stones on the other side to like convey its typing in a very literal way. It's great. I really like it. Nothing bad to say about it at all. Roserade, I like. I like it as a riff off of Roselia. I think that Roselia was a really good design that I wish they had gone a little bit further with in Gen 3. And then they did that. They gave it, a pre-evolution in Badoo and then an evolution in Roserade. And I think both of those are really fun and interesting riffs off of Roselia. I think it really works. The whole line is interesting. I like that Roselia has a bit of like a masked dancer type of persona. It's a really good design. It says what it needs to say, and it does it very competently. It does it in a very interesting way. So yeah, like the bouquets in each hand, it's fun. I like Roserade. I like the whole line. Cherrim is a Pokemon that I really, really like in concept. The fact that like it's a cherry and then it evolves and it has the cloaked form, and then you can see it has the like sun form where if it's during like the clear skies or sunny day, status effect, weather effect, then it turns into, its bloomed form. And, I like the cherry blossom theme. I like a lot of things about this Pokemon. But this is going to be another very personal thing because of the absolute nightmare that it put me through in Pokemon Legends Arceus trying to complete its Dex entry. The goodness of the design does not outweigh the hell nightmare that it put me through. Like if I were rating it objectively, I would probably put it like A tier. I think it's like a really cute, really fun design. But because of my own personal bias and my nightmare experience in Pokemon Legends Arceus, D tier. It's a D tier for me. Carnivine I like. I kind of like fell out of watching the Pokemon anime as I got older, but when I saw that James had a Carnivine, there was a part of my brain that thought it was like an evolution of Cacnea or Cacturne somehow. I don't know why I put them together. I think it's just because James had both of them, so I just sort of like attached the two ideas. But Venus Flytrap Pokemon, it makes sense. It's kind of like very similar to Victory Bell. I would consider them to be kind of like the same basic concept. Like they're a carnivorous plant that has like sentience to the point that it could actually actively like go after you and hunt you. So I think just because they're such a similar concept, both executed, I would say equally well. I would say probably interchangeable with Victory Bell here in B tier is what I would say for Carnivine. Perfectly acceptable. Abomasnow, I like. It's a snow-covered evergreen tree. It's got that ice grass typing. It's got snow warning for its ability. It was the first non-legendary Pokemon. Oh wait, Tyranitar. It was the first bad Pokemon to be able to summon weather on its own. So it's got that sort of unique gimmick for it. And yeah, Abomasnow is an amazing name. And there are of course all those memes about like Obama Snow, like Barack Obama. But yeah, I think Abomasnow, good concept, solid execution. I would put it probably above Exeggutor, but pretty solid A tier for me. Tangrowth I really like. Tangela I have this weird emotional attachment to. Just because it's such a weird Pokemon. Like what is underneath all of those vines? It's like the mystery element of it. Like what does it look like if you were to trim all of these back? And the answer is just probably like a black blob. The answer is probably it doesn't look like anything. But it's just so endearing to me. The audacity of the design, really. Like it's so simple. Like it's just a pile of vines with feet and then with arms when it evolves into Tangrowth. But it's just, it just checks all the boxes in my brain somehow. Also, complete and total aside, while I was interning in a particular organization while I was still in school, there was a person who was affiliated with my program named Tangela, spelled the same as Tangela, and I think about that a lot. Anyways, Leafeon. Leafeon, I think, is, it's an evolution. They are very popular designs for a reason. It's my older sister's favorite Pokemon. And just as a shout out to her, I'm gonna put top A tier. So shout out to my older sister. Leafeon, top of A tier just for you, bud. Shaman, S tier. A lot of really solid grass types in Gen 4. I gotta say, like the only real dud is Cherrim, but that's just because of my own personal biases. But yeah, Shaman, I like its sky form. I don't know the name of its official form, but like a grass hedgehog with like a beautiful little flower beret on it. I like it. There's nothing that any reasonable person could look at Shaman and be like, that's stupid. I don't like it. Well, I don't like you. If you don't like Shaman, that's fine. Serperior, the smug snake Pokemon. I love Snivy. Gen 5 is my favorite generation. So I am very irrationally attached to this. I'm torn between A tier and S tier. So I'm going to put it bottom of S tier just because, like, it's such a very elegant design, and like Snivy has so much personality to it. You know, Smug Snake was a meme for a long time leading up to 5th gen. Servine is like probably one of the better mid evolutions in terms of design for starter Pokemon. I think it doesn't have that awkward teenage phase that a lot of starter lines have to suffer through. I think that the whole line works really nicely. I know that a lot of people have like ragged on it for the fact that it loses its limbs over the course of its evolution, but like, so what? Like, it's a snake. It's a grass snake, you know? Also, again, battle isn't taken into consideration, but I'm allowed to mention it because it's my video. Contrary is such a fun ability, and the fact that it gets it as a hidden ability, and the fact that, you know, it was in the generation that introduced the idea of having like really fun, interesting hidden abilities for Pokemon, yeah, that's going to be more credit to Superior for me personally. Simisage. The grass monkeys in Gen 5 are definitely the weakest designs out of all of them for me. Like, they're cute, they're fun and interesting on their own, but like, nobody really likes them. The only reason that they would use them was like for a little bit of extra type coverage in the early game before you have other options. There's nothing like offensively bad about it, but it's just one of those Pokemon that exists to fill a mechanical role, and all of the design merits that it has, it ultimately just comes down to the fact that it's there to teach you about the type chart, about like matchups, and like, you know, grass is super effective against water, and water is super effective against fire, and fire is super effective against grass. Like, I can't get over the fact that it just exists to serve that basic mechanical purpose, and so for that reason, can't really rate it above bottom of C tier. Lilligant, great design, beautiful design. You know, it's a very pretty design. Petalil is adorable. How could you not love the little guy? And then Lilligant, you know, it just really, it's hard to explain sometimes when it's just like such an obviously good design to me. Like, you know, obviously all of these have a lot of green, but it's got like the orange flower, and it's got, you know, those little bits of extra personality that I think a lot of the more basic grass types just lack. Like it's a flower with a face, but it's a flower with a face in a more interesting way than the likes of like Sunflora or Bellossom. So great, good stuff. Maractus, as a cactus Pokemon, I think it does a worse job than Cacturne. I know that Maractus is also one of those like memed on super forgettable Pokemon, but it's kind of like circled back in that people meme on how forgettable it is so much that it's memorable for being so forgettable. So, you know, I think it's a good design. Again, I do definitely have a Gen 5 bias that'll come up more later, and you can roast me in the comments for it. But yeah, Maractus is fine. You know, it's, as a cactus Pokemon go, I don't think it's as strong of a concept or execution as Cacturne, but there's nothing wrong with it. It does its job perfectly well. We've got Hit, a PC game, Among Us. I like the fact that because Gen 5 didn't have any older Pokemon, they needed a new Pokemon to act as like the mimic in the game. Like the thing where if you pick up an item ball in the field, it turns out that it was actually a Pokemon in disguise. So they created Fungus and Amoonguss because they couldn't use Voltorb for that purpose. And I think it's great. Like it's weird, like out of universe that like it evolved to look exactly like a Pokeball. But when you think of like the mechanical purpose in the game, and like it's a mushroom guy, you know, and like Amoonguss has a great name. Yeah, Amoonguss, I'd put A tier, pretty high A tier for me is what I would say for Amoonguss. Ferrothorn, super iconic, well loved design, and for good reason. armor-plated plant. I think it's the first grass and steel type Pokemon, and it might even be the only grass and steel type Pokemon looking forward. I could be forgetting something, but again, don't correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Yeah, it looks sturdy and jagged and dangerous, and the fact that its ability is Iron Barbs, I think is what it's called, that if you touch it, you'll take damage. Yeah, I believe that. I believe, looking at this, that you don't want to touch it directly if you can avoid it. It's one of the most popular Gen 5 Pokemon, and I think for very, very good reason. There's a lot to love about the design. It's got a really cool and unique typing. It's got a lot of personality to it, with the vines that come off of it and wiggle around in the Gen 5 sprites. Yeah, great Pokemon. Easy S tier for me. We've got Verizon Wireless, and I like the Musketeers, but I don't know. They're definitely on that edge of over-designed legendary Pokemon for me. I don't think all of them are created equal. I think that Virizion is probably one of the weaker of the Musketeer Pokemon, and we'll get into the others in their appropriate type videos. But yeah, I think that Virizion is probably one of the weaker, maybe not the weakest, but it's probably one of the weaker of the Musketeer designs. But it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just think it's not super interesting to me. I've never particularly felt attached to Virizion compared to the others in its little clique. Chestnut, I think, is underrated. It's definitely goofy, and Quilladin has that football shape to it that a lot of people memed on when it first came out. But I like when Pokemon have the confidence to be a little bit goofy. I like the theming between the three starters in Gen 6, how it's the warrior and the mage and the rogue, how it's sort of that, classic RPG dynamic between them. And I think Chestnut, armored chipmunk, I think it works really well. I would put it, I am not as big of a fan of this as other starter designs, but I would say top of B tier for me, probably. I think that Chestnut is underrated for sure, but I don't necessarily think that it's amazing. I think it fills its design goals perfectly competently, but it's not very exciting or endearing beyond that baseline level of competence, in my opinion. Gogoat, the original ride Pokemon. This thing is so forgettable because it's barely appeared in games following 6th gen, barely at all appeared in them. I like Skiddo and Gogoat's design. I like the fact that they are the first rideable in the overworld Pokemon. I think it's fun, but I think just because they don't appear very often, they were the ace of Ramos's team, the grass type gym leader in Gen 6, but beyond X and Y, what game has this guy even been in? Where has he been around? Nowhere is the answer. So the more I talk about it, I'm gonna go C tier. I think he's better designed than Sunflora, but it's just so forgettable because it doesn't appear anywhere. Decidueye, Rowlet, great design. I can actually pull up. I've got an old painting of a Rowlet that I did, and I'm not an artist, so be nice to me. But we've got my painting of Rowlet. We've got a really strong affinity for this design. I am a grass type starter devotee. So if I seem a little bit biased on some of the starters, that's why. I always pick the grass starter first. It's my thing. It's what I do. Everyone has their particular decision criteria, and my decision criteria is it grass type? But yeah, Decidueye is a great final evolution. I like the fact that I think it's the only Pokemon to change secondary typing over the course of its evolution. How it changes from a flying type to a ghost type, and that's why it wasn't included in the bird tier list. So yeah, I think there's a lot to like about this design. I think Rowlet is very, very cute. Dartrix has so much personality to it. And Decidueye, like it's a ranger owl. That's great. That's amazing. Lurantis, I really like. I think Fomantis is probably like the cutest Pokemon. Like out of every Pokemon that exists, I feel like Fomantis is probably the cutest in my opinion. So for that reason, I'm putting it bottom of S tier. And I like Lurantis too. I think that it's a very pretty design. I love in a sea of green with some other accents. I love the Pokemon that like stand out a little bit from that, like Vileplume and Jumpluff and Tangrowth, and Lurantis is like it's red and pink with green accents. So like the different color design in, it's still very definitively grass type looking to me, a little bit bug type as well, even though it's not. But it feels still definitively grass type, but it's not just green and call it a day. Plus, like I said, Fomantis, probably the cutest Pokemon out of all of them. It's like it's very cute. I can't get over it. Shiinotic, it's a mushroom. It's not the best mushroom Pokemon we've ever had, but it's not the worst mushroom Pokemon we've ever had. You know what? Looking at it, I'd put it, pretty interchangeable with the other mushrooms. Looking at it, I like that it's fairy type. I like Morlul, how it has the small branches of mushroom. Yeah, it's good. It's solid. It's in with the rest of the mushrooms. Yeah, I think it evokes like psychedelic fairy mushroom. And again, to my point of color design, it's purple. There aren't any other purple grass type Pokemon. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's. I will always give credit to things that can break the design language that's expected of a type a little bit, but still look like definitively correct for their type. Sarina, it's a D tier because why are its hips so big? Like, why did you make a Pokemon dummy thick? It's similar to why does Nuzleaf have nipples? It just makes me uncomfortable to look at the design. Like, who did this? Satoshi Tajiri, don't at me. Tapu Bulu, I like all the Tapus. I think they're really good designs. I love their inspiration, and I love the way that they turned out. I love Tapu Bulu's nose ring. I find its like limbs strange. Like, how does it grab things? But that's not important. But yeah, all of the Tapus are really, really good designs, just in concept and in execution. I think they're all solid. I don't have anything bad to say about any of the Tapus. I think they're just straightforwardly good. Kartana is, again, it's such a fun concept of like an origami Pokemon that's like, it's so sharp that it's basically a steel type. Like, it's an origami sword Pokemon, and it's grass steel. I think that the Ultra Beasts kind of, because they are such deviations from the standard Pokemon design language, a lot of them end up looking really, really goofy, looking at you, Buzzwole. But I think Kartana is like very clearly otherworldly to the remainder of the Pokemon design language. But I think it works. Like, I would look at that and be like, okay, yeah, I could see that being like a Pokemon, not like some weird riff on the Pokemon design language. I look at Kartana and I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I can see that belonging in the Pokemon universe. And I can't say that for all the Ultra Beasts, but I can definitely say it for Kartana. Rillaboom, again, I'm a grass type devotee. I've used Rillaboom. I think that it's really fun to use in game, but the humanoidness of the design is definitely pretty off-putting. I put it above. I'd say it's a better grass monkey than Simisage. And I really like Grooky. I think Grooky has a really fun design. Thwacky's kind of weird. He kind of looks like a punching bag or like a Muppet a little bit. And I think Rillaboom is just like a little bit too humanoid, which is it's kind of more a complaint about monkeys than it is about Rillaboom specifically. But if you look at the other two Gen 8 starters, it was not accidental that this thing looks a little bit too humanoid. I like the fact that it's a drummer. I think that's like a fun gimmick. But it's a little too furry bait for me personally. It's like right on the edge, and I find monkeys unsettling in the first place. But I'll bump it up a little bit just because I think that Grooky is a really fun and cute design. But monkeys are creepy. Eldegoss. Eldegoss is a better dandelion Pokemon than Jumpluff. And I would say it's, I don't know, based solely on design, I'd say it's probably above the mushrooms even. I think that it captures Dandelion, again, in a much more literal way than Jumpluff, but it's the audacity of it, again, to the design. And like Gossifleur is very pretty, it's got its head flower, but Eldegoss is just, they went for it. Like it's a little grass type guy with a huge dandelion afro, very reminiscent of like Mirror Bee in the GameCube Pokemon XD and Coliseum. Very reminiscent of that. Give a Pokemon interesting hair, and I will rate it more highly than if it didn't. Finally, we're at Flapple and Appleton, and I'm kind of rating them separately but together because I think that they're both really fun and interesting riffs on the same design concept. I think as split evolutions go, this is like a much better split evolution than pretty much everything except for the evolutions. They both make sense as evolving from the same thing. And I could see both of them as like viable evolutions. And like there's the tiny extent of like kind of version exclusivity between them. But this is my ideal of a split evolution line, in the way that like Bellossom is just weird to me. I think that Flapple and Appleton work really well as sort of foils to each other, where one is like the super like jumpy around frail guy, and the other is like the short and stout like I'll get there when we get there type of guy. I think that they work really well off of each other, and I think they're both individually really, really strong designs. So I would put them like middle-ish of A tier for me personally. I would put them like above like Roserade and them, but below the mushrooms, because I think the mushrooms are all really good. But yeah, as split evolutions go, I like, obviously evolutions are like the split evolution line for me, but I like Flapple and Appleton and the way that they play off of each other and the way they play off of the basic one. Applin. Applin is the name of the basic one. The way that they play off of Applin. Really, really, really fun designs and really, really good plays off of each other in the same basic design concept. Perfect split evolution line, in my opinion. With all that in mind, D tier, they're not all bad designs necessarily. I would say Tropius is a bad design, but the other three are just like things that I have a personal beef with. I do think Serena being dummy thick is a little bit weird, but like, I could reasonably put Shiftry in like B tier, Cherrim in like B tier or A tier, but just because of my personal feelings about some of my experiences with them, I couldn't reasonably rate them any higher. And yeah, I know that there are a lot of starters in S tier, but like, the starters are the things that they put the most effort into designing, because that's going to be the thing that sells the games. So it makes sense that the starters would be among the best designs. And of course, Kartana it's just fun. If you don't like Kartana, that's fine. But do you also hate fun? Because you probably do. With all that said, Thank you for watching this very long video. This is not going to be the longest type tier list, but we're approaching some pretty lengthy territory. Let me know if you disagree with any of my placements, and you're entitled to your bad opinions. All that said, thank you very much for watching. If you made it this far, leave a like and a subscribe if you want to see more. I'm begging ya. I'm bankrupt on likes and comments. So just make it happen for me. Be a good friend. Yeah, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.